Good afternoon, fellow Plexers. I had a message today, earlier this morning, from Atiba, all about moving Plex from a Mac Mini with portable hard drives to a Synology DS920 Plus, and it seems he's watched my videos and has gotten the courage to jump in with both feet, and I can congratulate Atiba for doing that. So I'm not going to read this verbatim, but he's looking for advice on setup. So let's go with his plan first. And he wants to switch to Docker on the Synology for better hardware transcoding. So media migration, create clean folders on the NAS for movies, TV shows, anime, music, etc. Mount the NAS via SMB from the Mac and copy everything over in batches. And in Plex, edit the library folder paths. Now I want to stop right here. I've never connected a USB drive to either of my Synology NASs, but that might be another option. But SMB will definitely get the job done. So let's talk about folder structure first of all. And to do that, I'm going to go to the trash guides. Now if you Google trash guides, you get one URL, Google trash guides how to set up, and you've got options for Docker, Dock Starter, Native, Synology, TrueNAS Core, Unrated, and Windows. So let me jump into the Synology setup. Okay, what I'm looking for is this hard links and instant moves. So there's a lot of instructions out there that will block getting instant moves, which the trash guides also calls atomic moves. Basically, you need everything in one shared folder. Now, people can't do this when they have portable media or they're using a Windows computer that has multiple drives in it, drive C, D, E, and F, and stuff like that. This is where the NAS really comes in great. So I've never done a trash guide setup using torrents, but I have with Usenet. So basically, I don't know where it is from this. Usually there's a folder structure example, but I'm not seeing it from this area. But anyway, he uses one shared folder called data. Well, if you're going with the Usenet setup, let's go into this Synology NAS. Where am I here? Oh, while we're here, this is a great movie to use as a test. And we're going to come back to this movie later on. This movie, as a Remux, 83 gigabytes in size, has a bit rate of, I think, 195 megabits per second when it's first added to a Plex server. After a couple days, it gets indexed and it's listed as 105 megabits per second. Very dense movie as bitrate goes. So I don't know, Plex has never said anything that I've seen, but I assume when it's first added to the server that the maximum bitrate is 195 megabits per second, and after it's indexed for a while, or after a little while, it's marked as 105, which is probably the average bitrate. So if you want to test out your Mac Mini to see how many of these transcodes down to 720p you can get, this is a great movie to test with. All right, so anyway, back to the Synology NAS. Where am I here? All right, so I have one shared folder. I'm not liking how this is working. I have one shared media folder called media-plex. Now I have these test ones for a test server, but this is my main shared media folder. And I keep everything here. So I have a sort folder for movie libraries, for music libraries, for other videos, for photo libraries. My Saab NZBD acquisition folder is at this level. And then I have a sort folder for TV show libraries. So we click in here, we've got the complete, incomplete, and watch NZBD folder. Everything coming in for sonar or lidar lands inside this subfolder. And then let's talk about Sonar. Sonar can easily pull different TV shows into different library structures. So here's my sort folder, TV-library. Make everything lowercase, no spaces, no underscores, none of that nonsense. Um, Inside this sort folder, and including the shared media folder, media-plex, not capital M, not capital P, no underscore, no space. So inside this library sort folder, I have my actual library folders. Now I'm trying to get this series that's got a decent resolution and that has subtitles. I'm hitting a brick wall right now. So anyway, my main TV show library folder. Once you're in that, everything returns to uppercase and spaces. Again, no underscores. See, I've got some maintenance to do. My collection is old and I'm trying to get things all in order so I can delete that. Now let's not delete anything. I'd rather do it from my browser, my file manager browser window. So you see everything has the year in parentheses with the source ID from TVDB. Nice season folder structure, and then all completely compliant Plex library names. My FileBot expression does a lot of extra things like notifying me if there's embedded English subtitles, shows me the media characteristics, all in a Plex compliant way. Anything in brackets for an episode, information in a brackets for an episode file name is ignored by Plex. And Sonar can direct certain shows here, direct certain shows there, and direct certain shows to this folder structure. One instance of Sonar. There's not really a chance you're going to be pulling music albums into multiple music libraries, but I have the same thing here. A music-library sort folder, and then my main music collection, a mixtape collection, and then just I collect music manually for a buddy of mine to put on his flash drive. Same with the movie library. I do not run the Radar, but if you wanted to, you could have Radar pull movies into different structures: main movies, kids movies, documentary movies, concert movies. The one thing Radar can't do is pull the same movie into two different structures. So if I wanted, the best superhero movie that's coming out next to go here and also here, you can't do it. Pick one or the other, and then you run a second instance of Radar to get that second copy. So anyway, this nested folder structure works great. And the reason it works great is, let's get back up here. The reason it looks great is 2 levels down, there's a raw acquisition file that arrives. The Star app will rename it and move it instantly to any of these other subfolders. If your acquisition folder was in another shared folder, and then it had to be moved to your media shared folder, that's like watching paint dry or molasses run down a hill. Even though you're telling the OS to move the file between shared folders, it's actually a copy and delete process. It's not a move. But within the same shared folder, I can take any file from any folder and move it to the other, and it just happens instantly. That really speeds the process up. If you add a TV show to Sonar that has 12 seasons or 14 seasons, something like All in the Family, I don't know, MASH, Modern Family, Frasier, and you're bringing in a 720p or a 1080p copy, and the files are even marginally sizable, well, the older shows might have had 22 episodes per season. 10 seasons of that's 220 episodes. Just imagine waiting for each one to move from one shared folder to another while they're being processed by Sonar. It's so much faster to have everything in one shared media folder. And that's why the trash guides will stress atomic moves. So this is the structure I suggest. You can name these anything, but um, I'd have them nested like this. Okay, so where am I before I forget? All right, so we kind of covered 1 and 2. The extra file processing sounds kind of cool. It's nothing I need. To be honest, my younger brother had a hard time in his life, and then he found the Church of the Latter Day Saints, and that caused him to want to use a service called VidAngel. I don't know how well it worked for him, but this is a similar thing, and I would suggest if you really have this set up nicely, maybe share that with the group, share it in Plexaholics, because while it won't interest everybody, there will be a few people it will interest, and the more fun things that can be done, the more fun people have. All right, so help with Docker. This is where both, well, really Marius hosting comes in and a little bit with SpaceRex. SpaceRex on YouTube should be your general Synology NAS go-to. If you're not sure if you've set your Synology NAS up or you want to do something with it, search his channel. You can follow Robbie over at NAS Compares too. I should have mentioned that. Let's get Robbie up here. So this is a great Synology resource with how-to videos and stuff like this. I did watch him install Plex on a Ugreen NAS through the Ugreen operating system. I did not like that install. I think you're much better off following Marius hosting for Docker container installs, and even the trash guide services. Let's see, if you go to Docker, he's got everything here. Things I would never even need to use. Where is the fun stuff? I'm just looking pretty fast. So it's actually easier just to search his name. All right, so media downloads, that's not quite what we're looking for. All right, here's Sonar. Let's open that in a new tab. So I think he has you install Sonar via a scheduled task, but he shows you how to get the container manager going, how to get Docker going, and yes, he's using a scheduled task. The only thing you got to be careful with is his path statements don't always make sense. So the configuration goes into the Docker shared folder into a subfolder you create called Sonar. Exactly how I installed mine. His volume paths are kind of goofy. One goes to the acquisition folder and one goes to the Plex library folder, or it could be MB or Jellyfin. So this acquisition folder on mine, well, so this would be volume 1 just like it is, because I have the SSD volume in my Synology NAS. Let's pull that up so we're not confusing things too much. All right, so my first volume is two 1 terabyte Western Digital Red SATA SSDs in slot 1 and 2. My Rusty volume is 8 16 terabyte Iron Wolf Pro drives in the 3 remaining slots in the main NAS, and then the 5 slots in the expansion unit. Rust SSD. Don't need a lot. This is where the Docker containers run from. So this is volume 1, volume 2 for the media. You saw my folder names on my NAS. So this, going to the config, would be just like that. Volume 1, Docker, Sonar, and then config. Everything to the right of the colon is virtual, an alias. So this on mine would be volume 2, and then because my SOB NZBD folder is inside my shared media folder, this would be Plex-media. The next subfolder would be SOB NZBD, and the next subfolder would be, I'm sorry, we're doing it here. This line. Volume 2, Plex-media for the shared media folder, This would be sub NZBD, and then this would be complete, and then the alias here, I just think I leave that as complete. So this would be the path to my Plex media folder. So this would be volume 2. This would again be media-plex. This would be TV-libraries, and then I end it there. I wouldn't want to go to a specific library, and then I have the alias, I think it's called Sonar Media, just so you can see it when you're looking in the folder structure inside the container so you can identify it. So what that allows you to do, let me start up Sonar. So that allows you to have multiple root folders in Sonar. So there's my alias to my shared media folder, subfolder of TV-libraries, and then I have my library folders inside it. So this leads to that structure, and then you see the actual library folders. Which means when you add a show, let's do something like All in the Family. It's on my server, but I'm not going to really add it. So when I pick this, you choose your parameters for the episodes coming in, but I can drop down and I can choose any of those root folders. I could put it in the anime library, I could put it in the kids library, I could put it in the main TV show library. This is beyond a trash guide setup. A trash guide setup doesn't show you how to enable this, and it's all due to this nested file structure. The only downfall is the last series you add will default to, let's do this again, let's do All in the Bitcoin Family. So the last series I added was pointed to this structure. If I added this show to this structure, that's what's going to come up by default next. So when you're adding a show, you do have to double check which folder structure you're adding it to. So that achieves atomic moves. The Marius hosting website is fantastic, but his paths are pretty, I don't know, I don't want to criticize him because this is a great resource, but I don't think he runs Plex. I think he's a very, very smart gentleman, very helpful gentleman, but I don't think he runs Plex or these services. Or if he does, it's only enough to make sure it works, because this doesn't make sense. You would not have your Plex media inside the Docker container subfolder. It just wouldn't happen. And you also would not have your acquisitions coming into the Docker subfolder. That would be going into your shared media folder, both of these. So you can adapt this and set it up with Portainer, and let's do that next. Let's show you a Plex server. It's just easier to search. How to install Plex? He's got multiple ways, and you would want to use method hardware accelerated transcoding. So we click into this, he's going to show you how to get Portainer installed, or tell you how to get Portainer installed. And then you use Portainer to add all this, adopted for you. So mine looks exactly like this, except I don't have this goofy path statement. So mine would be just like this for the configuration to the volume 1. He's got a shared media folder called movies. Inside that's a subfolder named media. That's where he's putting his movies in. I think this would make more sense if it was a shared folder named media, and then there's a subfolder named movie for a movie library. So mine would be volume 2, be my shared media folder of Plex media, or is it media-plex, and then it would stop there because I'd want Plex to see everything in that everything to the right of the colon is virtual. So I might have that as my Plex media, something that stands out like a sore thumb. Read-only is fine. If you're going to run a DVR, it would be read-write. And then this gives the hardware acceleration. He shows you how to discover your PUID and PGID, which is permissions, through a a scheduled task. I don't bother with a Plex claim code. I just claim the server manually. It's really easy. And about the only thing else I changed is I just called the container Plex lowercase. This was the same, and because I called it Plex lowercase, in his instructions earlier, he has to create a subfolder in the Docker shared folder called Plex HW. I just called it Plex, and it had to be just Plex here to find the right path. It's all fairly easy. Okay, so that's help with Plex and a Docker. And questions about Mac Mini. I'm not a Mac guy. I can easily mock up a Windows server. I don't have any Mac hardware to know, and this is going to be the most controversial thing I'll say on YouTube. I think a lot of people use Mac systems or iPhones, and because the marketing is they're easy to use, they're easy to use. I have had a buddy who bought the latest, greatest new Mac Mini a couple of years ago, and he was telling me that he bought a supercomputer so much more powerful than this system I'm running now. That if I knew what was smart, I'd get a system just like him. And I spent over $2,000 building a new system with a 12th gen i9 processor, 64 gigs of RAM. I've got two beautiful 28-inch Samsung 4K monitors. I threw this video card in. I don't game. I use it for transcoding with Handbrake. So my buddy thought I bought a piece of junk compared to his, and I went over to his house to help him get him connected to my Plex server, and he doesn't even know anything about computers. He wouldn't know if it was a horse or a Ferrari. And I just think that's similar. I know people love their Mac Minis and they think they're super powerful, but you can tell me how powerful your 2018 Mac Mini is compared to your 2019 Celeron processor in your NAS, and that's easy to do. Let me go to YouTube Studio. Without even getting Plex installed on the NAS, you can search my channel for this video. I think I got a chart I put in there that shows the maximum number of 4K videos you can do with my test Magnificent 7 video that has 105 megabits per second bit rate. And if you can find that same video, if your Mac Mini won't put out 5 transcodes down to 720, it's not as powerful as the Celeron processor in your new Synology NAS. And let me just end the video with this. This is a great resource for people using NVIDIA hardware for hardware acceleration. Now this won't come up on a mobile phone, and I don't know if it comes up on my tablet either. Everything's squashed together. But this is what's important to do. Change to 4K 68 megabit. Now my test 4K video is 105. So it's not quite twice, but it's more dense. If we find my NVIDIA graphics card on this chart, the 12 gigabyte 3060 one, you see it can do 10 of these. Well, my DS1520 Plus NAS, when I was running Plex server on it, that could do 5 very dense HEVC 4K streams at almost twice the bit rate. So even this GeForce card doesn't compare with the iGPU you have in your NAS on a price performance index. That Celeron processor is dirt cheap if you had to buy one. This is still pretty expensive. So you have to compare apples to orange. And you can see if I change this to 1080p 10 megabit per second to 4 megabit per second, which is more typical, and we find my NVIDIA graphics card, now you can do 23. all of this is going to be similar on an Intel iGPU. So let's go to Plex server. And let's see what server I have running. I don't have it running. I never know how to end a video. All right, so we're in container. Let's go to containers and let's start up this test Plex server. Let's go back to containers. We'll have to wait until it's running. All right, let me go to Plex, refresh the web app. This is just app.plex.tv. Go to settings. All right, here's that server up. DS1520 plus SSD Docker. Let's go to transcoder. So this is the UHD Graphics 600 iGPU. This can do 5 of those very dense 4K HEVC transcodes. I couldn't test it to do regular streams. My bit rate, I had a place to go and I lost it. I know where I'm going now. Let's start the HTPC client app and then we can end this video. All right, let's switch. Reset home customizations. Let's pick that server. And this is all public domain media except for the one 4K video. Let's exit. Let's start it back up. Okay, so I don't want to show that video, but I can show any of these. Well, I can definitely show Big Buck Bunny. That's all public domain. So if I go into my Plex server and I go to the dashboard for that server, you'll see this is 13 megabits per second. Most of my Plex media for movies is around 3 or 4 megabits per second. The lower the bit rate of what you collect at, the more the more streams the iGPU can transcode because it's not working that hard. So even this is tough because this is 10 megabit to 720p 4 megabit. So if this card, this Titan RTX, can do 46 of those, if we switch this back to the high end, let's go to that Titan one now. So now this is doing 13. That's about twice what your iGPU can do in that NAS. If we go back down to this, well, I'm guessing you can do about 20 of those type of hardware accelerated transcodes. So anyway, you can kind of test this out yourself. You can pick a high bit rate 4K movie because that will limit the number of devices to use before you'll fail at an additional transcode. And you can just kind of watch this video and see how different things compare. And I'm sure you're going to find that the Synology NAS compares favorably with your Mac Mini, and it will all be under one operating system, and just use the Mac Mini for fun. Okay, I was going to end the video, but let's not do that yet. The best way to move Plex off a Synology NAS or any NAS for better hardware accelerated transcoding is a basic Unraid license. I have a Asus NUC with this Intel Core Ultra 5 125H processor, equivalent to an i5. But it has this Meteor Lake P Intel ARC iGPU, and it's about 10 times the hardware accelerated processing that I need. I have a gig fiber connection. Everybody streams fine. My media is very conservative, and it looks great to people. So let's end it there. Whatever advice you need, reach out. Let me know how you're doing, and definitely, with a big grain of salt, the Marius hosting instructions to get something installed through either Pertainer or a scheduled task, you just can't beat. And once you get your folder structure set up, let me know. I can help you with these configurations if it's confusing to you. And there's one thing I wanted to mention. So I've got a lot of those move Plex server from one operating system to another. Let's actually end the video with this. So the thing to do before you shut down the Plex server is go to Settings Library while it's running on your Mac and uncheck all the automatic scan options and the time scan, and definitely uncheck empty trash automatically after every scan. Do that and save the settings. Don't forget to save the settings down at the bottom. And this way, let's go into a library. This way, when the Plex server is transplanted, you remove this path and add the new path. And if nothing else has changed, as long as the movies are in the same folder structure, well, the folder structure can be named differently. As long as you have the same number of movies in a subfolder on both the old and new system, that's all that matters. So when you change paths, Plex will scan it automatically. So what I suggest doing is setting up a test library. Copy 5 movies, not move. Copy 5 movies over, create a test movie library. And when you get things moved, check that one first. Go into that test library folder, and create some custom posters or something. Doesn't matter what they are. Download something that's wrong and do whatever you need to do, or download the right poster and edit it to say this is my test poster, just so you know that when you scan that test library into the new server after changing the path, that nothing changed. If you succeed there, everything else will be successful too. So I know this gets kind of long, I know I kind of ramble, but it's just my style, and this video is really not made for everybody. This is a support video and not a general how-to or tutorial video. Thanks for watching, and happy plexing, and Atiba, good luck with your move, and feel free to reach out for advice.